It's time for the cutting room floor, where most of the time some of the best things are left.
Yes,
So, I'm Jamie,
I'm Dom.
and we're here for the first time, our pilot episode, to talk to each other, really, just about what we always talk to each other about, which you don't know about. So, Dom, please enlighten the listeners.
So what we always talk about is film and all kinds of things related to it. It can obviously go into other source materials, whether it be novels, comic books, whatever, but it all kind of ties back into this one thing that we love, this medium that we appreciate so much. So we have interesting conversations, and it's just something that I think other people who appreciate this medium as much as us would thoroughly enjoy. So that's what it is.
And we thought for this first go round we would talk about the turning points in our lives that got us actually interested in film and what goes into it instead of just watching it, because media like film, TV, it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere now. It's on your phone, on your computer, obviously on a TV, on a movie screen. But there had to be something that sparked that interest, and that is what we're going to try to stay on task and talk about today. And I say try because we do go off on tangents because things are obviously connected. It's all connected.
It's all connected. And you guys will learn quickly. I hope you guys are a little more on the scatterbrain side because we can get that way. But that's what makes it fun, because just seeing how we got to where we get to sometimes is just more interesting than the conversation itself.
So Dom gave me a homework assignment, and I started to watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood last night.
Great film.
Now, I was working, so it was like on breaks. I'm 45 minutes in, so I'm at the part where Bruce Lee is talking.
Oh, man.
Okay,
Did you not finish the entire Bruce Lee scene?
I didn't finish the entire Bruce Lee scene, but I do have a couple of, not necessarily critiques, but I guess I have a couple questions, and there's one character that I wanted to talk to you about, Sam Wanamaker. So when Rick Dalton has his face in the glass with the ice, and the old producer walks in, or the older producer, it's Nicholas Hammond. Do you know who Nicholas Hammond is?
I don't. I didn't know who he was.
Okay, Nicholas Hammond, because obviously Quentin Tarantino loves the 70s, and in this respect, obviously the 60s also. Nicholas Hammond was, I want to say Fritz, but I could be wrong, the oldest Von Trapp boy in The Sound of Music. He was Doug Simpson in the Oh My Nose episode of the Brady Bunch. When Marcia gets hit in the face with a football. Okay, he was the football quarterback.
Okay.
But more importantly, to nerds like me, he was the first live action Spider-Man in the 70s. So seeing him and knowing that like Quentin Tarantino obviously is a fan of his and respects his acting and his legacy in film enough to have him as a cameo in this, I found satisfying in a weird way.
Well, Quint is a fanboy before anything else. He loves the filmmakers he loves, the actors he loves. He doesn't care about their status, what they're currently doing, what they've done. If they've done something he's appreciated, then he's going to talk about it and he's going to use it as an influence. That's what I like about him. His influence is all over the place. It can go from samurais to westerns to whatever you got. His influence is it's deep like mine. He likes everything. He can appreciate everything. So I think in that regards, a lot of people can relate to him because they can find something in all his films that they can relate to himself, because he has such a vast array of influences. So I do like that about him. See, that's one thing you like, but I love Roman Polanski, and that was Rick Dalton's neighbor. That there, I was like, oh man, he's talking about my guy. So we both found something in the same movie that we both liked and connected to, even though you may be more versed in one and I may be more versed in the other. So,
but that's why we come together and talk about it, because we see things differently, but we still appreciate it in a lot of the same type of way.
I mean, you got to be able to appreciate that stuff because, like, okay, obviously that guy playing Spider-Man, without that betrayal, you wouldn't get some of the stuff we got now. So
That's
it
true.
took that to the steps to get there. So I'm sometimes the journey's more interesting than the end result.
Yeah, that is very true.
Mm-hmm. It's like the movie Stalker. You know, have you ever seen
Stalker?
that?
No, I don't think I have seen Stalker. What is it?
Stalker is a Russian film, 70s, from a director named Andrei Tarkovsky, and you know he's a pretentious filmmaker that a lot of people, you know, he's not my favorite. He's okay, but I did appreciate Stalker. Stalker's about this guy who takes these two guys into a place called the Zone, and you have to travel through it. But in the back of the Zone, there's a place called the Room, and in there, all your greatest desires will be granted. But it's not about the room. It's about getting to the room. That's the beauty of the film, because, you know, I could spoil it for you, but I won't. Because maybe one day, if I really feel like messing with you, I'll give you a messed up homework assignment and have you watch Stalker. But it is a film that you can appreciate, and I appreciate it. It's a film. Have you seen Annihilation with Natalie Portman? It's like, I think it's 2018.
You know what? I have not. And Kamal, you know, he actually suggested that movie numerous times to me.
That's Stalker. That without Stalker, you don't have Annihilation.
Okay.
So it's Annihilation is a modern, up to date, more visually striking version of Stalker.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
So if Stalker, you said it's a Russian film from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, like, I don't want to say communist propaganda, but can you tell that it was probably made under the restrictions of, okay.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely all the undertones of that
Yeah.
in the film, and life reflects it, how the people live there, and it's a bleak movie.
Okay.
But it is good. I did enjoy it much more than his other films. I'm not crazy about him, but he's okay.
Because I find that interesting that, like, you can tell, you know, the time period and the place usually of when certain films were made. Like, I'll just use that as an example. Like, a Russian film from the 1970s, you know, communism didn't fall until like 1990, until Hasselhoff sang on the Berlin Wall. That was the end of communism.
Crazy.
In Russia. So, you know, this,
which is insane.
Yeah, this obscenely German man singing whatever, I guess the theme song to Baywatch. I don't know what he sang.
Is that what
I don't know. That's what he was most famous for, right?
I mean, everybody knew him from Baywatch, man.
Yeah, I mean, or Knight Rider, but at that point it was more, Baywatch was like starting at that point, like 89 or 90. So
hey, he was in the sand, man.
Yeah.
What's his name? Christopher McDonald, Happy Gilmore. This guy spends more time in the sand than David Hasselhoff.
Christopher McDonald. You know what other film he was in?
He's in a lot of films.
But one of his early roles was a T-Bird in Grease 2. He was a T-Bird in Grease 2.
One of the worst films ever made.
Now, this might be a discussion for another time, but I want to plant a seed. Because Felicia and I were talking about Grease 2 the other day. She loves Grease 2. And we've been watching that Rise of the Pink Ladies, that show on Paramount Plus.
Okay. And
I find it interesting because it takes place in the early to mid 50s, so they're sort of touching upon some of the, I want to say, worst things of the era. As far as, like, I'll just say color lines go.
Okay.
Like ethnicity kind of things, even though it's still like a romanticized version of that. Because people do get along when they probably wouldn't have at that time.
Of course.
And we were talking, and I said, well, this show wouldn't exist without Grease 2, because Grease 2 allowed people to see a world outside of the first Grease that included Rydell High.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of research. So Grease, the play, the musical, was written, it premiered in 71, so it was obviously written before that. And Grease 2 came out in 82, so it was written obviously after Grease. And what happened in between, like, the musical Grease, which the first one was based on, and Grease 2? Roe v. Wade. So it's
yeah, that
So
did happen.
yeah, so it's more of I think Grease 2 is more of like a I hate to say women's lib, but it's more like female centric. Like Stephanie, the main character, Michelle Pfeiffer, as Felicia was telling me, is more almost more like the Danny, like male centric, because she's more about being independent
Yeah.
and doing things herself. So that might be a discussion for later, but it's just something to think about.
Yeah.
Even though it is terrible, I do not deny that.
Well, of course, the time period is going to reflect what's going on in there, and of course, that was the time when the ladies were feeling good, and they were working, making their own money. They could vote. They had freedom. So, and the control of certain things was on the rise. So they were liberated in more ways than one. So, yeah, that does make sense. So, all right, why don't you give them your introduction to how you got into film?
Okay, well, I'm older than Dom, for one thing. So I grew up, like, I was born in the late 70s. So I grew up with the original Star Wars trilogy.
Of course.
Christopher Reeve, Superman. Indiana Jones.
Come on. Great.
Raiders, Temple of Doom, and your favorite, Last Crusade.
The best.
It is. I do not deny that.
The best.
And all those films. So I was young. And I was like 11 years old, like when Tim Burton's Batman came out.
Mm-hmm.
So 89 was a great year. And when we started thinking about this, I was thinking about 88 because we used to go, my mom used to take us to see movies at, I was telling you which theater it was. But in 88, we saw like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Great Outdoors.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, Crocodile Dundee 2. Which sounds strange because we'd already seen Crocodile Dundee because this was 88. But, like these films, it kind of got me into like, I'll say like the bigger picture because before that it was really just, VHS. Mm-hmm. Like my dad always buying the sequel or renting the sequel, I should say. So I saw Evil Dead 2 before Evil Dead, Missing in Action 2 before Missing in Action, although Missing in Action 2 is called The Beginning. In his defense for that one.
Technically, you watched them in order.
Yeah, technically. And, it's just Chuck Norris's mustache kicking ass. That's really all that was. But so that kind of led to 1989, which obviously Tim Burton's Batman came out June 23rd. And I remember my mom taking my sister and I to the movie theater and telling us we were going to go see Dead Poets Society.
Oh, that's a good one too, though.
I know, but see, when you're 11 years old,
you want to see Batman.
Yeah, you do not want to see Dead Poets Society. Now, when you're older, you want to see Dead Poets Society.
Definitely want to see Dead Poets.
And I was so disappointed. And then we went up to the box office, and she said, Batman. And I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
And I think that it seems almost cliched, but as a kid, seeing what Tim Burton was able to do, because I'd already seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and I'd probably already seen Beetlejuice. I think those were his first two films.
Yeah.
And to see what he was able to do with Batman and make Michael Keaton, of all people at the time, into Batman, like a formidable Batman.
Yeah.
Like that, it was just insane. And I think after that, it kind of snowballed because in the 90s, then they kept trying to do superhero films, some good, some bad. Mm-hmm. But that's what got me more into what I wanted to see and what I appreciated. Because Tim Burton is an artsy director.
Yes, very.
So he took a character that's not artsy and made it kind of artsy.
Yes.
And look, Jack Nicholson.
Jack was
Jack
amazing.
Palance, even. Like, incredible. Even Kim Basinger.
Kim Basinger was great.
And
she was hot.
Yeah. And it was like her peak time pre LA Confidential was also great.
She was great in that too.
Was she Veronica Lake in that or something?
Yes, she is.
Incredible.
She is Veronica Lake.
But we probably wouldn't have had that without Batman.
No, you wouldn't.
And then a couple years later, I think I was telling you a couple days ago that my one friend worked at Blockbuster and he told me to check out Clerks.
That seems to be the film people suggest to people when they're kind of getting into the deeper side. Yeah, it's definitely a good gateway film. Because
that led to Slackers, Richard Linklater, and all these other independent films that I grew to love. There was a really good one called Have Plenty. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Have Plenty, the black movie?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, that was actually
Uh-huh.
really good, like an independent film, but it was
Yep, that
whatever
was pretty
happened to that
good.
guy? He was
No
incredible.
Clue. The dude with the curly hair,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
He was really
I
good.
can't believe you've seen that movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I haven't seen it probably since I was like maybe 11 or 12.
Yeah.
That's one of them ones I watched with my mom back in the day.
Yeah, it was a great movie because like the 90s then, and then after Clerks you had Brothers McMullen.
Mm-hmm.
So like Ed Burns came along. So it's like Kevin Smith, Ed Burns, Richard Linklater,
Yeah.
like all these guys that obviously influenced other people. And around the same time, you had Tarantino.
Yeah.
But Tarantino wasn't. I was more into, I guess, like the romantic comedy kind of thing.
Yeah, the art house rom-com.
Yes,
That's what you could call it.
Yeah.
Like you like Singles.
Oh,
which
yeah.
was good.
Cameron
you know?
Crowe.
Yeah, Cameron Crowe
Yeah.
came through around that time too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Because he wrote Fast Times
Mhm.
when he was young, and then Say Anything was, I
Yeah,
think, his
Say
first
Anything,
film he
that was
directed.
See, that's a rom-com I can get down with.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, that's definitely more my speed. Because all those directors are kind of like, I would put them in the same group. Crowe, Smith.
Yeah.
You know, all them guys, I would put them in the same category. Linklater, of course. I mean, they all, as they grew, they all kind of did their own things and kind of had their big moments and their low points. But
Yeah.
they all still had a style that I think a lot of people still do to this day try and capture. Because the magic of Clerks, it'll never be captured. I love every Clerks sequel, but that first one, that magic will never be captured again.
No, never.
Like,
it was lightning in a bottle. As
it
they
really
say.
was.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And done on a shoestring budget in a store. Like,
Yeah.
a couple dudes who don't act.
And it was about his life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I feel the same way about Kurt Cobain with Nirvana. So you have like Bleach, their first album that nobody bought, which is still great.
Still a great album, yeah.
Nevermind, which everybody bought, but it was still sort of about dealing with like the lack of success, even though they did Bleach.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have In Utero, which is about how the success can be disappointing because now his life has changed. So what's he going to write about?
Mm-hmm. That's such a good album.
In Utero is incredible.
It's so good.
I miss the comfort in feeling sad. I think is like the most pertinent line in there because it's like, wow, like what happens when you get your success?
When you hit the mountaintop, and
Yeah.
where do you go? And then look at what happened to him.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think he was speaking the truth there, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, we could go on about Kurt and how his mind worked, but I also think he had demons in him that took his mind down a different route, because you got artists who do think that way, and I think Eminem was kind of the same way too. But then you got guys like Spielberg or Christopher Nolan who are like, okay, I did something absolutely incredible, I'm gonna top that, and I have a way to do it, and they do it. So I think that also just goes into the mindset of an artist and what their motivation is. You know, Christopher Nolan, every 2-3 years, he's going to try and change the game. He's going to change the game in some kind of way with Oppenheimer.
Yes.
Some kind of ways he's going to change the game. So,
in some ways, he might actually nuke the game.
He
with Oppenheimer, he might actually.
Guys, understand, you will hear some great jokes coming from this man next to me.
After we see Oppenheimer, we might start singing "You Dropped a Bomb on Me."
Yeah, it's such a great song.
It is, and it might be apropos.
And it'll be very fitting, and we'll probably love it. So that's what got you into it.
Yeah, basically.
So what carried you in to now? So what influences kept your love for it alive as the years have gone on?
I think it's because, like, going back to like Kevin Smith with Clerks, he kept doing films, whether they were good or bad, but he kept growing as a filmmaker, and he would also direct like TV shows and do other things, and he kept himself out there as he got older, so he still stayed relevant. So his characters stayed relevant. So even with Clerks 2 and Clerks 3, they're obviously not as good as Clerks. Although Clerks 3, the way all the callbacks to Clerks,
man, insane.
it's close because it sort of shows you how much they actually love each other.
Absolutely.
Those characters and who they are and what they mean to him. And I think that like those types of things. And he's also a comic book nerd.
Yeah.
So like I love comic book films, not as like the greatest thing ever. Like my favorite film of all time is MASH, because the first time I saw it, I fell in love with the fact that it was different than the TV show. Because I only knew the show before that. And seeing Donald Sutherland, Ellie Gould,
he was golden, man.
Robert Altman, like his direction.
Dude, you already know how I feel about Robert Altman. He is the man.
It's kind of like guerrilla filmmaking, and these actors who were young at the time, like almost unproven, he gave them a chance to shine and to be something more. So like, in spite of my love of certain genres like superhero films or whatever, I still love like the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids.
Classic.
Casablanca's.
Classic.
I actually do. I love Citizen Kane. And it's not necessarily, it's like what he was able to accomplish at 25.
Oh my God. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, see, and here's the thing. And so people understand this. We'll just get this out of the way right now. I am not the biggest Citizen Kane fan, but that does not mean I don't appreciate it for what it is and what it did for cinema. Citizen Kane, first of all, I love Orson Welles. I think he is one of the best filmmakers and one of the most underrated actors because he's given some brilliant performances. But Orson Welles, he was a genius, and what he did pull off at that age, come on, no one was doing that, especially in the 30s. So I have to give the movie its credit. I just don't find it that entertaining. It's not a film I'd throw on if I need to pick my day up. That's my gripe with the film. But it's not a bad film.
So what got you into film? Because you're very young to be this learned and this passionate about someone like David Lean. I always say that. Like, that blows my mind because he's obviously an incredible director, but how do you know about him? Why do you know about him?
Well, let's see. David Lean, the first David Lean film I saw was Brief Encounter. And I actually saw that younger, and I thought it was incredible. Short film, but nothing like what he's known for. So later in life, when I eventually saw Dr. Zhivago, Lawrence of Arabia, Bridge on the River Kwai, all those, I thought back to that and was like, wow, what a guy who can make such small scale intimate films and make the largest scale thing you've ever seen. And they're both so intimate and grabbing emotionally and visually, no matter what scale it's on. Lawrence of Arabia is one of the biggest films ever, especially for that time. But it feels like I'm sitting right there next to Lawrence and we're just locked in together on a tight journey, even though we have this vast landscape around us. We got the whole desert, all this stuff, all these set pieces. He can still make a film that intimate and grab you right in and have you connect with the characters. And that's where I appreciate Lean as a director so much. Like, Great Expectations, what he was able to do with that story, I could never picture that story because I haven't read the book, but I know a lot about it. And from what I've heard about it, it just sounds like almost an impossible movie to make that will be entertaining. And it's actually very entertaining. So Lean is just, he's next level. He's next level. So, but what really got me into film, I grew up with it. So I was born in the Midwest. I'm a 90s kid. I was born in the early 90s. So I was raised by the TV. My mom had me young, so I watched a ton of TV, and I spent a lot of time with my grandma, my uncle, and my uncle would show me, cartoons and movies and stuff like that, and I would like them. But my mom was really the one who got me into them, and she always liked the B movies, the back of the video store stuff, the stuff you would never, the stuff you never see. Like, she would watch the weird movie from the popular actor that no one's ever heard of. So I started watching films with her, and one of the early ones I can remember was Gia with Angelina Jolie. And I really liked that film when I was quite young when I saw it. But the one that really got me was she took me to see this in theaters, and it was Boogie Nights by PTA.
Oh my god!
Yeah, my mother took me to see this
That
movie.
you would have been what, 5 or 6?
I was
right?
like 6.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like 6, and she took me to see this movie, and it was a late showing too, and it's an almost 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
And I was glued the whole time, and my young mind, I don't know what was going on, but I was like, I really liked that. And I thought about the film a lot, and when it finally came out on VHS, you know, we had rented it and watched it again, and I was like, man, I freaking love this movie. And that, any chance I could get to watch it, you know, over the years, I would. And I've saw it a bunch of times, and my cousin really liked it, and he was a little older than me, so we watched it, had a good time. But that was the one that made me really, I was like, okay, I like this medium. So started watching all kinds of stuff. I grew up with all kinds of crap. You know, I would watch dramas, action, cartoons. It did not matter. I watched whatever. But the film that really pushed me over the edge was The Empire Strikes Back. I mean, Star Wars in general hit it hard for me. But when I first really sat down and watched the OT, like A New Hope, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. But after I watched The Empire Strikes Back, I was just mind blown, and I was just like, God, how can one film be this good? How can it? The Empire Strikes Back has every single thing in a film, and it's only 2 hours. It's got great story, a great continuation of a story. It's got all kinds of innovations. Yoda is one of the sweetest, most original puppet designs, and Frank Oz killed it with him.
Sweet he is.
Yeah, sweet he is. You know, Dagobah, just the look of Dagobah alone was just, it was a fantasy world, you know, and you can see the influence of just Dagobah alone throughout the whole 80s. Look at the Labyrinth, look at Dark Crystal, look at all that stuff. You can just see Dagobah all over it. And it's funny. The story gets dark and gritty, and that was just risk taking at the time. And I've always loved the risk that George Lucas took with Star Wars. That was a big risk, paid off major, and so was Revenge of the Sith later on down the road. Big risk, and it paid off major. So those were the two films that have really deepened my love. But it just grows and grows with the more I learn and the more films I watch, especially with these international films.
Well, I think Irvin Kershner, he directed Empire.
Yes, he did.
And he was the king of sequels for a while. Because I think he also did Never Say Never Again and RoboCop 2.
He did RoboCop 2. I
didn't
know that.
Yeah, that's where I first heard his name. Or read his name. Because I remember reading like the novelization of it back in like 1990, whenever it came out. And I didn't know he did Empire until later, until I started reading credits. And obviously I didn't know he did Never Say Never Again until then, which is just a remake of Thunderball. With, I think Kim Basinger was in that too, wasn't she?
She had a nice little career for a while, for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
She was hot, man. Back in the day, oh yeah.
So I know you love Paul Thomas Anderson. So that's, So was he your gateway drug to like more arty films?
I'd say if we're gonna say a director was my gateway, him and Scorsese. Taxi Driver, I saw that when I was 18, and that slightly changed my life a little bit too. Because I didn't know what I was seeing, but I knew I loved it. It was just one of those things I really now I could break it down and tell you what I love, but at the time I couldn't really explain in the words why I love the film so much, but it just made me want more as well. But Paul Thomas Anderson, with each release, I think he put his footprint in the game, but didn't make a big enough one to where he would have to feel like he needs to top himself.
Okay.
Where I feel like Tarantino almost does that, but he's one of the guys who does it effortlessly. I think a lot of guys feel the pressure. But PTA, he knows how to push the boundary just enough to where your eyes are on him, but your expectations for him on the next one aren't through the roof. Maybe people thought that with There Will Be Blood, because that was just something that we'll never see again. I don't think we'll ever have. It'll be a long time before we get a movie like that again, with a performance like that again, because it's just that's a one in a lifetime. That it just everything clicked at the right time when that came out. But I think he really changed the game with that. But then The Master, I think that was one of the most underrated game-changing movies, and it's two of the best acted performances with Philip Seymour and Joaquin Phoenix, and no one talks about it, and it makes me sick because they're electrifying in that movie. Like, for people who haven't seen that movie, there's a scene where they're on the boat and they're having some drinks, and Philip Seymour is questioning Joaquin, and he can't blink and he can't freeze, and he has to answer these questions in rapid fire mode, and it gets so intense between these two. I started sweating a little bit when I was watching. When I sweat during a film, it's intense. Like Whiplash, Damien Chazelle, that made me sweat. So PTA is just, I go on. Because he became his own. Because if you watch Hard Eight or Boogie Nights, he has that Scorsese, Robert Altman vibe with the ensemble cast and things like that. Even in like Magnolia 2 with the big ensemble cast, I say next to Robert Altman, he handled that better than anyone. Because if you watch Nashville from Robert Altman, there's stars all in it and a lot of early ones. But he divides them over this 3-hour movie so nicely, it's easy to follow them all, and it still makes one good cohesive story. So I think PTA really studied the game very well and got that down. And as he walked the line, he found his own. And I think he really came into it really with Punch Drunk Love, but great film.
Yeah, that is a great film. Yeah. And I'm not a Sandler fan.
In that movie,
it was his first great performance.
Yeah, it turned a lot of people from Sandler haters to Sandler observers. I won't say fans, I'll say observers. So.
Yeah, observers is a good word.
So, you know what? Screw it. It's the pilot episode. While we even got Adam Sandler on the subject, let's talk about him for a second.
Okay.
Because I think that Adam Sandler is possibly top 3 most underrated actors of all time. Because obviously people judge him on his comedy movies and think he's silly and goofy. But I'm like, listen, when your movies make $300 million every time, you're doing something right.
Yeah. And if Netflix, it sounds dumb to say, if Netflix is willing to bankroll your entire like later career, so he can do more independent films, so he does, like, I'll just say like the pop music version of a film for like Netflix, so he can do more serious things.
Yep.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And he started out as Theo's white friend on The Cosby Show.
He did.
He did. That's crazy. That was before Saturday Night Live.
That's crazy.
Yeah. As weird as that sounds. And he was also, I think, there was a game show on MTV in the mid to late 80s called Remote Control. Like, Colin Quinn was like the MC of, I think, or something. I don't think he was the host, but he was like the MC is all I could think of. So Adam Sandler would come on and do, like, I think, different characters.
Really?
It was a weird game show about TV. It was called Remote Control. So
that's kind of dope.
Yeah, and it's, from where he started out to what he's been able to do, as much as I might not be a fan of, like, the...
Don't tell me you hate The Water Boy.
I've actually only seen part of it, believe it or not.
So funny.
Someone was watching it the other day at work. Actually, it was last night somebody was watching it.
Hey, see, look at that.
Yeah, because Kathy Bates plays his mom, right? And,
yeah.
And the woman from The Craft.
The Craft.
And Return to Oz.
Yeah,
she was super
American
young in that.
History X.
Yes. She was in it, yeah. And Henry Winkler.
Nicest guy in Hollywood. Winkler's the man.
Yeah, the Fonz.
Yeah, the Fonz.
Yeah.
He's great.
So I haven't seen it because I had bad experiences with... or a bad experience with Happy Gilmore. Speaking of Christopher McDonald.
Wait, what is your bad experience with Happy Gilmore?
I was a freshman in college, and my roommate was hanging out with these stoners. The type of people that had, like, Jerry Garcia's obit hanging in their room, So everybody was high, because he's like, hey, let's go watch this movie. And everybody's high as hell, like, just laughing at the wallpaper. So I couldn't focus on the film, and it just totally turned me off to everything about it,
bro.
Because of that.
Gilmore is legendary. Dude, I could quote that entire film. I saw that in theaters with my mom too. I'll tell you this. If we could get all the money back my mom spent on taking us to the movies, dude, I could buy a brand new car. I feel like we lived in the movie. She took me to see Happy Gilmore. I was quite young. Like, I barely remember it, but I do remember going and seeing him in the Bruins jersey.
Because that was what, like 96, maybe 97.
Yeah, I think it's 6 actually.
Around the time of The Cable Guy, which is actually still a great movie.
Another great one. Yes.
Yeah, which people hated at the time.
People hated at the time. Like now, it's just a dark, humorous, funny story, but quite sad too.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey, another. I won't say he's underrated. I do think people have given him his credit over the years, but I think he's been snubbed for a couple Oscar nominations.
Yeah, for The Mask, Ace Ventura 2, When Nature Calls. They should have gotten him.
You know, he should be considered the best actor of all time after those roles, especially after Dumb and Dumber. Come on.
Yes. But actually, you know what? A lot has to be said for him and Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels is great.
Jeff Daniels incredible.
He's
Dumb and Dumber.
He's
and just in everything. But
like, he's always serviceable.
But the fact that he could keep up with Jim Carrey.
Yes, and that level of energy and comedic spirit. Because Jim Carrey is one of a kind. Especially 90s Jim Carrey. Like,
oh my God, yes.
But The Truman Show and Eternal Sunshine, and Man on the Moon, he killed those roles. I think The Truman Show was an Oscar-nominated worthy role.
Is that Peter Weir?
Yes, it is. And he killed that.
Yeah.
And Ed Harris is good in there, too. He's a villain. He's always a villain.
He makes a good villain, though.
He does. He's a great villain. Yeah. He's always the villain.
Yeah. I mean, he was Maverick's nemesis in Top Gun Maverick, wasn't it? Yeah.
What? Wait, was it Ed Harris?
I think it was Ed Harris.
Was it?
I think he was the guy who's like, you're going here.
It is freaking Ed Harris.
It is Ed Harris.
But it was really John Hamm who was the dickhead, too.
Oh, well, yeah.
But it was Ed Harris in there. He's in everything, man. Love Him in a Beautiful Mind. You seen that, Russell Crowe?
A long time ago. Felicia loves that movie.
That's such a great movie.
That's Ron Howard.
Ron Howard.
See, great directors use actors like, because A Beautiful Mind is Russell Crowe, right? So you have Russell Crowe. I think Ron Howard directed him in a few films like Cinderella Man. But
another good film.
But then you have like Ridley Scott and Russell Crowe.
Oh, they were electrifying.
Yeah.
Man. Like, I mean, and because did you see Body of Lies with Russell Crowe and Leonardo?
I did not.
Ridley Scott directed that. It's not a bad movie. It's okay, but still, like, you can still see what he brought out of Russell, because Russell Crowe really is kind of just on the phone the whole movie. So it's like you can still see like those two work well together.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like Ridley and Russell. They were good together.
Here's a quick aside. Dom has seen way more films than I have.
I don't think that's true, actually.
I probably watch more TV shows than he
has.
You
definitely killed me on TV. He's got me on TV for sure. He's got me on superhero knowledge 1,000%, 1,000,000%. So anything comic book, hero or superhero related, this is the guy we're going to refer to. Now, I am a fan, but, this is the guy with the knowledge. Now, if we're getting into international cinema or stuff like that, that's going to be more my wheelhouse. So we both have our specialties. So both of us can probably serve it up for you on whatever you need. But I don't think I've seen more films, because there's a lot of like 80s, 90s films you've seen that I haven't.
Yes. And I have seen a lot of, have you ever seen Freaks? From like the early 30s.
No.
It's about like circus freaks. It's
it sounds great though.
It's a really famous, weird, creepy film. There was a time in like the mid to late 80s where my grandmother had gotten a VCR. So she just started taping everything and like handing me videotapes. And she would
Freaks was one of them.
Yeah, Freaks was one of them. Because I guess she remembered it from when she was a kid. Creepy.
Is it silent?
No. Okay. It's early sound. Because it's like 32, 33.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just weird seeing like all these circus freaks being used. They're kind of being exploited.
Of course.
Yeah, and I just mean for the film, because people that are like half people like walking around.
So they got real circus type freaks.
Because I think one of them I want to say like a midget, which is a word I don't think we're supposed to use
I
anymore.
think we're.
But at the time, it would have been.
That out.
Yeah, sorry. A little person.
Little person.
A
I
little
think
person.
that's what the word is. Yeah.
I think he falls in love with a woman who, like a normal woman, I guess a regular sized woman, and I think that's the crux of the story. From what I recall, I could be wrong, but it's like famous for just being like creepy and weird.
But is the regular sized woman? Does she have a beard?
No, I don't believe she does.
Okay, so is she hot?
I think for the time.
Oh yeah,
for like the early 30s,
she was
yeah.
probably a fox. And I mean,
but
hey, go little guy for pulling the hot regular size chick.
Yeah, you go Tom Thumb or whatever your name was, because that's usually what they called, circus. Well, actually, believe it or not, in spite of the M word, I think they were called circus midgets at the time. So if you go back, that's not.
You know what? Yeah, this is probably a time period appropriate.
Yeah. For the 30s, it's. Like, to be specific, like, not to say it now, but
I mean, I grew up with the M word, even me, so I didn't really learn it was offensive until probably maybe early mid 2000s, maybe like 2004, 5, 6, somewhere around there. So that's so freaks. That's
it might be something to check out sometime because
I might have to.
I think it just kind of like solidified that you could film anything, really.
Yeah.
And people would watch anything. Because I believe it was before, around the same time as King Kong, which the original King Kong.
That's a classic. Yeah. That took over. A lot of those good early 30s movies. I mean, the monster films in general. King Kong, Dracula, Frankenstein, like
The
all
Mummy.
All those films were some of the best. They still really hold up. They really do. Wolfman.
Lon Chaney Jr., I think. Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, it's nuts how those old films do hold up to this day. It is crazy. One film, and you're not going to believe it because I love vampire films, and I am going to watch this very soon. I have not seen the original Nosferatu yet.
Really? Max Schreck?
Insane, right?
That is insane.
It's been on my list for months.
Because that's what, the last voyage of the Demeter, it looks like the Max Schreck version, that Nosferatu
and I got
thing.
that. I got those vibes.
Yeah,
it just looks like it's gonna be very poorly executed.
It looks like Alien on a boat, because you know how you know what I mean by that. Like, that's what it looks like.
I just don't know, man. I don't know about that one. I'm critical of vampire films because I love them so much.
Yeah.
So. It's got to be done right. But I am weird. I like weird vampire films. I like the romance ones.
But see, after Morbius, how can
that's the best vampire movie ever made. So, I bought it on Ultra 4K Steelbook. I just bought it. I didn't even look at the price because I had to have it.
Yes.
So,
Jared Leto.
He
is a great actor, though.
He is great. Oh, he's incredible. He just was in a great movie.
He was. He was.
Look, Morbius, although everyone talked crap about it, we did have fun when we saw it.
We did.
We sat there, we laughed, we joked around.
Actually,
and we got through it. So it wasn't bad.
And the crazy thing was, there was 4 of us, and there was maybe 8 in the theater
8 total. Yeah.
So it was easy to have fun with the film.
Yeah, because we didn't have to worry about disturbing the people 100 feet up in the top row.
and if it becomes a cult classic, that's why, because you can have fun with it knowing that it's not serious.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to hit cult status.
Look, Jared Harris is in it. Matt Smith, who was the 11th Doctor.
Dude, Tyrese Gibson giving an
you're
Oscar-worthy performance.
You're right.
He was horrible.
He was Too Fast, Too Furious for that movie.
And Too Furious for that film. He's not a bad actor. I just didn't like him in Morbius.
Yeah, that's right. He was like a Fed or something,
wasn't he? He was. Yeah. And he was just very stiff and stale.
Yeah. That could have been the direction, though, because...
Maybe because the movie's a little stiff and stale. But
yeah.
We could call it a result. But I don't think Jared Leto was bad in it.
No,
I think he answered the assignment.
Yeah, he did his all. I think the problem is when studios... The inherent problem with superhero movies, I should say, is that if one is successful, studios are going to try to... I hate to say this, but they're gonna mine the well for whatever they can
Yes.
to try to reignite that same spark or
Yes,
whatever
they
that
are.
caused the success to begin with. So since Morbius is a secondary Spider-Man character or third,
Mhm.
you know, they were like, all right, we can still go along with whatever Sinister Six plan they tried to start with Amazing Spider-Man 2, maybe have him be a part of it and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I don't think it worked out because it's not the same world it was 8 or 9 years ago when they were starting that idea.
Yep. Yes,
So-
I agree with that because the game has changed so much from Amazing Spider-Man till now. Like, my lord, like look what's come out in between there. Like, the hero films weren't even. I mean, obviously they were making money, but they weren't even on the scale of like what they are now. Like, cause hell was Avengers out? Avengers was out.
Yeah,
right?
because it was like May and then July. So
it was the same year, right?
Yeah, so you had Avengers in May, and then you had Amazing Spider-Man in the beginning of July.
Was that June or July? Yeah,
it was like right in the beginning, around July 4th weekend, so they could make more money over a longer period of time.
Yeah, because I saw it in the drive-in theater actually.
And I loved it. Garfield was incredible.
He was incredible.
For being an orange cat, he was a really great Spider-Man. For being an orange fat cat that loves lasagna, Garfield was amazing. No, actually, Andrew Garfield's one of the best underrated actors.
He is. Oh, bro, Hacksaw Ridge. Come on, man.
Tick Tick Boom. More recently.
Was it Silence? Oh, come on, man. He's a beast.
Is that where
Social Network?
With, like, was he a monk or something in that? Yes.
Social Network. Beast, man. He's great. I do love Andrew Garfield. And he seems like a cool dude. Like when you showed me the pictures of him walking around with
the hot dog fingers.
I was dying. I was like, yo, I love that. You know, that's cool. He's a good dude. But I mean, the hero films alone, like we could have 3 months worth of episodes on just the evolution and where they're going and what they're doing. Yeah. I mean, the state of the hero world, I'm not a huge fan. I missed the 2012 State of the Hero world.
Yeah,
man.
because believe it or not, you had Spider-Man at the beginning of July, the middle or end of July, you had The Dark Knight Rises.
Dark Knight Rises, dude.
Yeah, which a lot of people didn't necessarily like.
It's still one of the best hero films of this decade. Like,
it's probably 2010s. One of the best James Bond movies. The way it's set up, the way it begins, and the way it's set up, it's almost like it's their version of Skyfall.
It is,
which came out in November that year.
Yo, that was a good year for action and hero films. Yeah, 2012 was beast. And then what was Guardians that next year?
Guardians was August of 2014.
Oh, it was 14. Okay, it was 2 years after that.
Because 13 was Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3.
And Thor: The Dark World, which we won't talk about.
Which a lot of people would say those are 2 low points in that phase of the MCU, which I could agree. And just we got the Christmas movie in July with Iron Man 3, and then Dark World just didn't hold the weight of the first one. And I still didn't think it was as bad as people made it out to be.
I think saying it didn't hold the weight of the first one is a good way to say it, because Kenneth Branagh directed the first one.
Yeah.
And you had, like, it was almost Shakespearean in the way that it was written and acted because of that, because of his classical training.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, like, you know, the brothers against each other and the father and all the stuff. And it's like, it seemed older. I mean, it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But even though he was banished to Earth and, you know, he's, like, breaking glasses. But you have, Stellan Skarsgård is in it.
He's amazing. He's always amazing.
And your girl
from
my girl, Leon the Professional is in it.
Yes, young Natalie.
Yeah.
Yes, I love Natalie. She's guys, I'm a big Natalie Portman fan, so you might hear me talk about her here and there.
Well, those early Marvel films, like pre-Disney, let's say, before Disney bought them, they figured out that formula of humor and action and drama, so they could almost fit into any genre, even though. So it's almost like grunge music, how it could be metal, like Alice in Chains, or Soundgarden, or hard rock, or even folk rock, but it was grunge because it came from a certain area.
Had the punk influence.
Yes, because Nirvana was a punk band.
Yeah,
you're right.
They were a punk band, a garage punk band.
Yeah,
because they had the simple, easy lyrics. Their music wasn't complex at all. It was just, it was in your face, and it got you excited, and it made you want to hear it. And that's how those styles of films were back then. It's just
and they could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't want to say like when Disney took over, it kind of. There was a certain formula then that it had
I was just gonna say they just got formulaic.
Yeah,
that's all. I was like, that's the bottom line. They got formulaic, and now the state of the world and the social media influence that it has on people's minds. They play it safe now, and everyone does. It's not just Disney. A lot of people in studios are playing it safe. We're not getting racy humor like we used to. We're not getting any type of offensive jokes or anything. Anything that may offend any group of people is going to be omitted. It's going to hit the cutting room floor.
Yes.
So,
and where we'll find it.
Yeah, we'll find it and we'll talk about it because, we're not getting paid $1 billion like Disney. So we can talk about this stuff. But yeah, I think the state of the world, with Disney is partially to blame, but I do think the state of the world has really, really beat things up. But I do think Disney as a company has embraced that far too much. And I think where DC is winning is they haven't. Yes, they're not doing anything crazy, but DC, they're not afraid to put something out like The Watchmen. They'll put something like that where there's clearly Rorschach he would not be politically correct in most people's eyes today, but they're not afraid to do that, and I respect that.
But like Freaks, like we could say things about Freaks that we can't say now in reference to it.
Yes.
So like Watchmen takes place in 85.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's like an alternate universe, so to speak, because Nixon's still president and all that, but for the time, he might be politically correct.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah,
for the period it came out.
But
as Disney, if DC was like, we're gonna sell you this property, Disney, you can do whatever you want with the Watchmen.
Oh my god.
They would first of all, make a PG-13 version of it.
Yeah, you gotta cover up Manhattan's
he's gonna get some swimming trunks.
He's gonna be a Namor.
Yeah.
The Submariner. And they'll just edit out the bulge.
Yep, edit him. Lord. Yeah, or it'll be implied to like. You ever seen The Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro?
My God, you know what? I have, but I think it was I had it on and I don't remember much of it.
Well, it's the fish guy.
Yeah, he looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
No, and I said the same thing. So he has but it's covered and they just speak about. Okay. So that's what Disney's not going to speak about it. They're just going to completely act like it doesn't exist. But
yeah.
Disney they don't have the balls, and I think at this point
because they don't want to show them.
Yes,
that's exactly right. Look at Donald Duck. He doesn't have the balls.
He doesn't.
That's why he's always cursing.
That's why he's always cursing. He's pissed off.
His voice should be as high as Mickey.
He's already angry here.
He is.
But yeah, Disney just. I'm sorry, they gotta take some risks because the fans aren't happy, and the money is showing it. Ant-Man underperformed insanely. The reviews weren't there. It's the proof's in the pudding. You gotta change it up.
Well,
and
they bought Fox, right? Mm-hmm. And Fox was actually going
they were
in the
taking
direction.
Risks.
Look, Logan,
and
Deadpool,
man. Deadpool and Logan are easily two of the best hero films to drop in the last 15 years. Easily. Like, Logan, bro, they made a Western gritty ass movie that was just fun. And like, they didn't do anything new for the Western genre, but they did something incredibly new for the hero genre.
Yeah.
And I'm like, y'all can take influences from other stuff and make something fire. That's why I think they need to watch RRR. Because that movie,
you need to see that.
You gotta watch it. Disney, I know when the people at Disney saw that, they were like, okay, they made this badass movie that anyone can get on board with for $75 million, and it's 3 hours long, and it looks like it cost $200 million to make, and it made $1 billion. Disney, open your
Wow.
eyes. It's insane. It's insane. Like the numbers, it's like I think it's the highest grossing film in India now.
Really?
In a country where the population's 1 billion.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of butts and seats.
Yeah,
That's a lot of ticket sales. And I'm like, Disney, you guys have international pull, but look what India's doing. They're going crazy with their films, and they're taking risks, they're having fun, and they're doing it shamelessly, and it's working out.
Do you think it's because they're just trying to like buy up things that have proven to make money in the past, and then when people who don't understand why those things were successful try to like, you know, get their fingers in it, that's what messes it up?
I think you just hit it on the head perfectly. They buy these properties up, these beloved properties, which they know these people love, and they know how people feel about them, and they take things and make them not make sense, and you already know. Don't get me started on what Disney has done with Star Wars. They'll make me. That's another one we can go into for 4 or 5 episodes. But I'm not gonna say they shot Star Wars in the head, but they definitely shot it in the chest, and you know they're holding on by a thread. Like this season of The Mandalorian, it's okay, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone who does want to watch it, but if you're a fan of the show, you're gonna watch it and you're gonna think some stuff, and you're not gonna like it. It's that simple. The action's good. I'll say that. The action's top notch, but the story and the writing, I don't like where it's going. And although I did enjoy this last episode, I'm not excited for the next season because I know Pedro wants out, and that's not good.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna try and replace this man or shift his focus to the other person in the show who's getting all the attention, I'm not down with it. I'm just not. And you guys haven't made, you know, you've made 1 great film, 1 good film, 1 okay film, and 2 crappy films.
So wait, which one is which? I'm curious.
So the great film would be Rogue One.
Okay.
The good film would be Solo.
Yes.
Because but that's just me. I like Solo. The people didn't love Solo.
I loved Solo.
Yo, I loved it too.
Look, have you ever talked with Cora about Solo?
We've talked about Solo. Yeah, we both love it.
Yeah.
She's like, dude, it's underrated. I'm like,
yes.
Now, it's been out for a few years, so now it is getting reassessed better lately. But when it came out, people were like, I thought it was fun. But
yeah, if only because of Donald Glover.
Yes, he killed. I'm like, his performance alone is worth watching the movie for. It was just fun, and I like what the kid did with Han Solo. I thought he did all right.
He was good.
Yeah, Harrison Ford's Harrison Ford.
Yeah,
but for somebody trying to play a character that is not only a character that's beloved, but an actor too, he did a good job. So it was fun. So that's the great and the good. The okay. Force Awakens.
Okay,
blank. Force Awakens.
You could have said A New Hope Part 2.
Yeah, that's what I was like. The New Hope reboot, essentially. A New Hope. It was fun. It was one of those movies when people saw it, they were just so excited to see Star Wars back.
Yeah,
they were like, it's great. But then after you watch it a few times, you're like, it ain't as great as it felt when I first watched it.
Yeah,
and I think that's where the whole trilogy alone there wasn't enough planning. No one talked to each other. And I think Rian Johnson and J.J. Abrams, they should have just collabed on the entire trilogy instead of them each doing their own thing or one person do it all. And honestly, I would have preferred it to have been Rian Johnson because I think J.J. really mucked up with what he gave Rian Johnson to go off of, and Force Awakens was nothing.
Yeah,
just remade A New Hope. So I have to remake Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah,
basically. Yeah, that's what I have to do. So that's what you left me with, and then freaking.
But The Last Jedi was a good film.
Last Jedi is a good film. And that's the other okay one. So Last Jedi is good, but dude, Rise of Skywalker, that's the last movie you did, is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And it's not because it's not visually striking or anything. It's because they took a great story and shot it in the head.
Well, it's Disney, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the action scenes reminded me of Frozen 2, right? Like, think about them, like, at the end, it's like just like Frozen 2.
It did have some
And I'm
Frozen
like,
2
what
vibes. And
like,
then, I just hate the forced bonding between these two, and they're like falling in love. And it's
so you're telling me it seemed forced?
Yes, it was very forced. And oh my God, and they're trying to force it down my throat.
So you think J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson should have collaborated for the same reason, I believe, that Dr. Manhattan doesn't wear clothes? Two heads are better than one.
Two heads are better than one. Yes. Yes. That is why.
Yes.
No,
yes.
Because they could have just.
What did you think of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movies? Those two, Star Trek and Into Darkness.
I only saw the first. What was that? 2009.
Yeah.
I seen that one. Fire. I did like, and I'm
Chris
not a
Pine,
Trek
man.
guy. I
Me
love
either.
Chris Pine. I really fell in love with Chris Pine with Hell or High Water because I was kind of iffy on him, but I did like him in Star Trek, and now I do really appreciate Chris Pine a lot. Actually, I actually really like him.
He was the best part of Wonder Woman, also.
He was great in Wonder Woman,
which is sad, but you can connect with him.
I don't know, man. When they're out in the beginning, all the chicks training and stuff.
No.
I have a problem with that.
Well, no. I just mean like. You know how you try to find a character you can relate to.
Mm-hmm. He was very relatable.
Yeah.
Film. I think he kind of had like an everyman vibe.
Yes,
there.
yes.
So
yes.
I definitely like Chris Pine in Wonder Woman. He's a good actor. He's definitely reliable. He's serviceable. He can give you, if you need that regular guy that most people can relate to, but can still give you an edge to a character where he doesn't feel flat. Chris Pine is definitely a good guy to go to for there.
If you ever get a chance to see it, I think it might be on HBO Max because it was on TNT. I'm the Night. It was a mini series. Patty Jenkins, the director of Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 2, I think she directed some episodes and produced it, and so did Chris Pine. It was right after I think they did Wonder Woman 2.
Nice.
Incredible. He plays like this PI, and it's based on a true story. Even though you find out later, if you do any research, his character was totally made up.
Oh, wow.
But it's about this, he plays like this down and out, like, kind of PI or detective or a reporter guy. I forget. It's been a few years. But he is so good in that show. It's just insane. That the character who's made up is the best part of the show.
Well, a lot of times that's how it is. And that's got to be a testament to his performance.
Ask Cora about it because we watched it and she loved it. And his tennis shoes. Ask her about his tennis shoes. He kept wearing these weird tennis shoes like throughout the whole series, no matter what he was doing. Sneaking into someone's house. You know what I mean?
He's wearing these bright colored, crazy shoes, is he?
I think they were white, but I don't know. It was just crazy. But his performance in it is amazing. And it was the first time I was like, God, he's such a great actor. And no one seems to really care, if that makes sense.
No one, you never hear people raving over Chris Pine.
It's because of Princess Diaries 2, man. He's been blackballed.
Because of that. Hey, Princess Diaries 2 was a letdown because I was a big fan of the first one, bro.
Oh, really?
Because I really liked Anne Hathaway as a kid. Because I think I was in 6th grade when that came out. So, I still like kid stuff to a degree.
Yeah.
So the Princess Diary was appealing. I did want to see it. It was a good film. And we got the birth of Anne Hathaway, man. She look at her now. She's one of the best in the game. She's very reliable. Especially, Brokeback. There's a lot more reasons, just her acting skills. I do like her in that movie, but
Dark Knight Rises, she was good in. Yeah.
I mean, she's in a movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. Speaking of Brokeback, called Love and Other Drugs.
Oh, and
she was really good in that movie too. She's in a good movie called One Day too. She's in. I actually had a little Anne Hathaway face. So I've seen a lot of her weird.
What about Ella Enchanted?
Ella Enchanted's great.
Yeah.
I like those kind of.
It was
films.
like a live action Shrek. That's what they said about it at the time.
That is what it is. I mean,
because it came out shortly thereafter.
Shrek is one of the best animated films ever made, easily.
Yeah,
I don't think it can be argued. But you still got to watch the new Puss in Boots.
Yes, I do,
because I can't lie. I was extremely shocked at how it shouldn't have been that good.
So it's like the animated version of Top Gun Maverick.
It really is.
Like, it shouldn't be that good.
Business being as good as it was.
Yeah.
It was that good. Come on, man. You know, I know you had zero faith in Maverick. You had none.
None whatsoever.
None.
I did have none.
And I was like, bro, I'm telling you, it's that movie.
As a kid, I was forced to watch Top Gun because of my older sister.
I hate Top Gun. It sucks.
Oh, it's terrible. It is terrible.
And you know I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan. I can't stand Top Gun. It's got some of the cringiest moments ever in it. I'm like,
you mean you don't sing to a woman randomly at the mall?
I don't. I don't
sing
sneak
the Righteous
into
Brothers
women's bathrooms. I don't do stuff like that. No.
Yeah.
But you needed Top Gun to get Maverick, you know.
Yeah.
So, and Maverick was the world needed Maverick.
The world did need Maverick. I can't argue with you.
It did. We needed it because it really did get people. Because like you said, like we were talking about the other day, I will say, No Way Home was everybody got back in the movies for that. They did. They had a lot of money. But Top Gun was like, the movies are here to stay.
Yes.
Like, they're back again. And I don't know, man, with Tom Cruise, just what he did for the movie and just how he really pushed for, like, guys, go see this movie in theaters. Not to line my pockets. I'm rich.
And he waited 2 years, right?
I want you to experience this on a big screen with the loud sound in a room full of everybody enjoying the same thing, to show people why we love the film so much and why going to see films in theaters and supporting this art form is important. You know, that's why I appreciate Top Gun so much.
Yeah.
Maverick.
and look, they were actually great performances. Even
they were.
Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, bro, she's legendary. She's beautiful. She's great.
Look, Bashir Salahuddin was good in it. Oh yeah, Labyrinth. Yeah.
Bro, everybody was good in it. Miles Teller killed it.
Oh, I can't even pronounce his name. Miles Teller. Honestly, we've talked about this before. He was a good Reed Richards in Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Just because it was a bad movie doesn't mean he was bad.
Good performance in a bad movie.
Yeah.
There's plenty of those.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and like I said, I really love the movie The Spectacular Now. Him and Shailene Woodley, the chick from The Divergent.
Yeah.
Just great coming of age story. He's like a baby alcoholic in there. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's really good.
The only thing I liked her in that I saw, she was supposed to be Mary Jane in Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man series, but her scene was cut from Amazing Spider-Man 2. But
can't go wrong with
The Descendants with George Clooney.
Such a great film.
Yes.
Funny. That's a good one. I remember when that came out. So, I was on my George Clooney kickback when that came out.
And that's George Clooney at like peak Clooney.
That's peak Clooney, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man.
Because look, Mr. Fox.
That is peak. You know what? Yeah, I'll say from Ocean's 11 up until probably Up in the Air was peak Clooney.
You know what? You're right, because he was great in Out of Sight.
He was great, but that was one of the starter ones.
Because it's like right after Batman and Robin.
It was right after Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
He had to shed that.
Because it's like I think he had just left ER. Mm-hmm. So it was like Batman and Robin and then Peacemaker, I think, with Nicole Kidman in 97. And then Out of Sight came out and nobody watched it.
Yeah, crazy no one saw it.
But it's such an amazing... Steven Soderbergh.
Soderbergh's so good,
Oh,
man.
my God, just the editing.
The editing, no, you know who's haunting in that movie? Don Cheadle. And that's Soderbergh's guy. He's in a lot of his stuff.
That's the first time I really saw Don Cheadle, now that I think about it. I know he was around before that.
Mine was Boogie Nights.
Oh, okay.
And it's crazy because if you watch Boogie Nights, he plays a very soft and vulnerable person struggling with his identity and who he is and his place in the world. And you just feel for him. And then you watch him in Out of Sight and he's a complete a-hole.
Oh, yeah.
And, dude, the scene where, guys, if you've never seen it, I'm sorry, I gotta spoil the scene, but the scene where he crushes that dude's fish in his hand.
Oh, yes,
my God. I was like,
oh, yeah, in the prison.
Yeah, in the prison.
Yeah,
I was actually scared of him. I was like,
yeah.
I was like, wow, who would do that to someone?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a really really good actor, and even when he became Rhodes, although
Oh
I did
yeah.
like Terrence Howard for Rhodes, I guess he was a pain in the ass to deal with, but he came in and he seamlessly filled that role,
Yeah.
and does what he does. But yeah, Clooney had his little Clooney renaissance because like
He
we watched
did.
Mr. Fox a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Dude, I almost watched it again the other day because I'm like, it's so funny.
It is, and the delivery and everything, and without seeing him, or even Meryl Streep
Mm-hmm.
in it, and Schwartzman,
Yeah, dude, Schwartzman's always,
Talia Shire's
he
son.
eats up less dialogue, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
But Meryl Streep has very few lines in that movie,
yeah.
but everyone she has, it all pack a punch, and they all leave you feeling like because she typically has the last word in the scene if she
Yeah.
speaks, and whatever that word is, you're just like, so something about that woman, very maximum or minimal, brings it. Funny voice performance, because we're just talking about voice acting now.
Yeah.
Coming to Meryl Streep, thinking about someone with that level of talent doing a voice role. Did you see Guillermo's Pinocchio?
Not yet. I have not, and I apologize.
It's amazing.
Because he's
apologize to Guillermo.
I should apologize to him because I love him as a filmmaker. Like,
he's so good.
Look, Blade 2.
Blade 2, amazing. One of the best sequels ever.
Actually,
made.
yeah.
Because listen, Blade 1 holds a dear, dear place in my heart. I watched that a lot as a kid. That's up there with like The Matrix. Like I watched those a ton.
Look,
Blade
Stephen
2
Dorff was
good.
great in that movie.
Yes,
obviously Wesley
very
Snipes
great.
was. Don't get me wrong.
I mean,
but you got to think of people holding their own with like 1998 Wesley Snipes.
Yes, because he was at the top of his game. He was going hard. I mean, I even love freaking Chris Christopherson in there.
Oh,
man.
yeah, that's right. Yes.
He's smooth in there, bro. He's got the slick gray hair. He's looking fresh in there.
That's
but
right.
when it comes to voice acting, dude, you gotta check out Guillermo. Kate Blanchett plays a monkey. 0 words. And she's in the entire film playing this monkey. And I just love Guillermo's like, I'm going to take possibly the best working actress right now who's been begging me to be in one of my films. And I'm going to go ahead and have her play one of the smallest characters in the movie that has almost 0 meaning. But she brings so much life to this monkey that the monkey slowly starts to become one of your favorite characters. And ooh-ah-ahs from Kate Blanchett just sound different from someone else. It's insane what talent can do.
So is it like the way Vin Diesel made Groot?
Oh,
just
he
saying,
made
I
Groot.
am Groot.
He made Groot, yes.
Just saying the same thing over and over again, you can almost communicate with this
exactly the same thing. What's insane to me is like, it doesn't even sound like Vin Diesel.
No,
like,
no.
He just sounds, I don't know what he sounds like, but it just fits. It just fits so perfectly. I couldn't even compare him to anything.
He was the Iron Giant also. So you could compare it to the Iron Giant.
I always forget that. That's such a good film.
So
Hogarth.
Yeah, Hogarth. Oh my God.
Dude.
And I think Christopher McDonald does the voice of the guy.
He's the cop guy.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
He's
right. He has been.
He's been around. He got roles. He has a ton of roles. They're never starring roles, but he was the supporting guy of the 90s.
Have you ever seen one of Kevin Hart's first films, superhero movie? It was
That's the name of it?
Yeah. Remember in like the early 2000s, they were making like
all
Not
the
Another Teen movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Not Another Teen movie's great.
Yeah. It just spoofs like Spider-Man and X-Men
Kevin
and stuff.
Hart did a spoof superhero movie called Superhero Movie.
I think he was the main character's best friend. I think he may have been handicapped. I could be wrong.
How do I not know about this?
I might have to look
I
this
can't
up
believe
really
I
quick.
don't know about this. This is insane.
If I can. Here.
That's crazy. While you're looking that up.
Yeah.
I mean, the early 2000s for the spoof movies was one of my favorite times in films because Scary Movie, Not Another Teen movie were 2 of the funniest films coming in the
Kevin Hart is in
2000s with.
Oh, Drake Bell is like
Drake Bell.
He's like the main character is sort of like Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's some kind of insect. and Christopher McDonald is like
Is he the villain?
Yeah, he's the Norman Osborn
Wow.
of that movie, let's say, and I believe Kevin Hart is like his. I want to say he's like his handicapped friend. I picture him with crutches, but I might be thinking of the guy from Percy Jackson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Percy Jackson was good. I did like Percy Jackson. See, that gives me like Shazam vibes.
Oh yeah, because of Freddy,
the little friend who can't do shit, but it's your best friend's a hero. It's good. I'm gonna have to check that out. Yeah. It's probably awful, but I'm gonna have to check it out.
From what I remember, it was because it's really all that came out at the time was like the Spider-Man movies. I think some X-Men movies. Maybe Daredevil was out at that point.
Daredevil was what, 02, 03?
It was 03. It was the beginning of 03.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was like.
Because this came out...
Dude, remember...
2008.
I always defend Ben Affleck's Daredevil.
The director's cut is actually good.
I just think it's one of those films... I watched it with zero expectations.
Yeah.
So I went into it just blind. And like I said, it was the best movie I enjoyed it.
So was it awkward then watching No Way Home, seeing Matt Murdock sitting in the same room as Foggy Nelson from Daredevil, the movie?
I mean,
because Happy was Foggy.
Think about it, but I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess that would be awkward.
Yeah, shouldn't we be working together here?
Yeah, no, well, yeah, that is awkward.
Yeah, I just realized that. I'm like, wait, Jon Favreau played.
Dude, he was Happy.
Yeah,
he's another treasure gem people don't talk about enough.
Swingers.
Swingers is amazing. He single-handedly is carrying Star Wars right now.
Oh yeah, he's the Mandalorian guy.
Yeah, right? He's carrying Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then, dude, he did Elf.
Oh, he did. You're
he
right.
Did Elf, man.
I always forget that he directed Elf.
Dude, yeah, I think that was his first one.
No. No, Doug Liman directed Swingers. You're right. That might be his first.
I think that was his first direction.
Yeah, because he wrote Swingers.
Yeah. And then Iron Man, he directed that.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Because he started...
They get him to pretty much kick off the MCU.
Yeah, that's what he did.
He must have came with a hell of a pitch, man.
Well, if you think about it at the time, no one cared about Iron Man.
That is true. And I was like he was one of the only heroes that I really followed outside of movies because I always thought he was badass. I don't know why. But my uncle really liked Iron Man.
Ah.
So he would show me little shit from him and we play the video games and stuff back then.
Yeah.
So I always liked Iron Man. So I went into Iron Man 1 really excited. So I went and saw that opening day.
I could tell by your facial hair that you're an Iron Man fan.
Right? I was turning my Tony Stark down, man. I'm like, I gotta be him.
I understand.
He's a smooth devil.
But look, Robert Downey Jr., man, he owned that role.
5'6", playing a 6'2" guy, making him feel like he's 7 foot.
Yeah.
Insane.
He's always been a great actor, though.
He is Tony. There's no other Tony. There's no other way to do it. I remember a few years ago there was talks, about him maybe being replaced. And they were like, oh, well, John Hamm. I'm like, John Hamm would have played a decent start. But now that I've seen Downey Jr., I can't unsee him.
I think Tom Cruise turned down the role. They wanted Tom Cruise.
He would have been a good Tony Stark.
Yeah, I think he could have brought a lot to it.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
He probably was like, I'm just in too many freaking franchises, dude.
Yeah. Because it would have been too much of a commitment for
Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I got to do one of these every other year. I can't be hemmed up. And they're giving him, $30 million to do a freaking Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean...
Plus probably part of the back end.
He's definitely getting a piece of the back end.
Yeah.
Tom has got to be the best businessman movie star maybe ever. Because I say Marlon really was the one who kind of started that. Because remember, he got back end off Superman.
Yeah.
And that pretty much made him a millionaire overnight.
Yeah, and that was just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And they paid him an exorbitant amount.
He got a stupid amount of money.
Yeah.
Stupid. I'm like, bro.
And he can't even pronounce Krypton.
Krypton.
Krypton. Yeah, it's Krypton.
That's just Marlon for you, man. That's
just
Marlon for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was one of the first, like, all right, I'm going to need a piece of that profit. And I mean, and he could demand it because he was who he was.
Yeah.
Like, he even got a fat chunk of Apocalypse Now. He got back in off that, even though he was a disaster for the film. He was good in the film.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, you show up 80 pounds overweight, didn't read the script, didn't read the source material, and you argue with every single person on set. Him and Dennis Hopper almost fist fought the whole time. Like,
really?
Yeah, they hated each other.
Wow.
And Dennis Hopper's like, it drove me crazy knowing I had to praise this man in the film. You know, he's like, he's the man. He's like, oh God. But I mean, yeah, Tom gets back in, but he would have been perfect to start too. I think he would have. But I think Downey Jr. has an attitude and edge to him, a dirty, dark side to him that Tom Cruise doesn't. Tom Cruise may be a bit too squeaky clean for Tony Stark, because Tony Stark likes the ladies. He likes to do his thing. Yeah. Tom Cruise don't really play them type of characters like that. So,
and I think you're right. Like Robert Downey Jr.'s personal life, like his
he's a rock star, man.
But his trials and tribulations, let's say, at the time, because Tony Stark, even in the comics, had like similar battles.
Out, man. Drunk as hell.
Yes, exactly.
He was. Yeah. And I wish Marvel would have explored more of the darker side of Tony Stark as a person.
Yeah.
Because that was what drew me to him when I was introduced to him as a kid.
Yeah, his flaws.
It's super flawed, super regular dude.
Yeah.
That's why I think him and Batman are two of the best heroes, because they both come from tragedies, both lost their fathers, both hella smart, both hella rich, but they both are extremely vulnerable and can be beaten. They have had their moments where, like, this might be it.
Yeah.
And wit and intellect wins the fight for them. Even though they got all these gadgets, the gadgets don't mean shit if you don't know what to do with them. So their intellect to me was always, I don't want to say superior to super beings, but I think it does give them an edge.
Yeah, because they can't rely on anything.
They can't rely on anything.
Like, you can be...
Thor is bringing the power.
Yeah,
The Hulk is powerful. Where, Tony... Like, look at Iron Man 3. I do like how in Iron Man 3 they did show Stark is Stark.
Yeah.
He had his little baby gadgets with him, but he wasn't suited up the whole time. He was using miniature versions of himself. He was flying all these drones, and I did like that aspect of it, because they did show that this man is a hero despite the exterior.
Yeah. So, take away the suit and what are you?
Yeah.
He's still a hero.
Still a hero, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, billionaire playboy philanthropist. But,
also a hero. Also a hero.
I'm still a hero.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, God, that just... The spark Disney had going with that, man. They started it off right with Iron Man, and then what was next? Was it the first Avenger? Captain America?
No, believe it or not, the next one was Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton.
That was after Iron Man.
It was. Iron Man came out at the beginning of May. Incredible Hulk was in June.
That was the
same
that's Ang Lee, right?
No, Ang Lee was in 2003. That's Eric Bana.
That was Eric Bana. Okay,
Louis Lemieux or something. I think he's a French director.
Okay.
Directed The Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
But it's because there was a cameo at the end with General Ross and Tony Stark in a bar. But you can't. I don't think it's on like Disney Plus or anything.
That's what I'm like. I gotta rewatch that. I do not remember that one. I don't remember that one. I gotta rewatch that one. I remember the Ang Lee one.
It's sort of an indirect sequel to the Ang Lee one, because it starts off, I believe, he's where Eric Bana's Hulk was at the end, like in South America.
Okay. And
he's like still like hiding out or whatever. And something happens. I think somebody finds him or something. So they, I'm not going to tell you how, in case you haven't seen it.
Because I'm like,
but and then he like goes on the run, and then that's how everything comes out. Have you seen She-Hulk at all? Oh, you only saw the one episode.
I saw the one episode.
Because
I might have, because I did like that episode, so I would give it. But I did watch the episode where everyone said was the best one, so I don't.
If you watch She-Hulk, you'll need to see the Incredible Hulk first, because one of the characters who's throughout the series is the villain from the Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
Played by Tim Roth.
Tim Roth is amazing.
Yeah.
I love Tim Roth.
Look, you have Ed Norton, you have Tim Roth, you have William Hurt.
Dude, that's a cast.
Yeah,
That's a cast.
the one that was probably miscast was I think Liv Tyler played Betsy Ross.
Yeah, which
no, Betty Ross. Sorry, Betsy Ross made the flag way back when. It's Betty Ross. I apologize. Yeah, because in the Ang Lee version, it was Jennifer Connelly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Who was a better Betty Ross.
But I love Liv Tyler, man. I do like Liv Tyler. Not a fan.
I don't think. I mean, I don't want to call her a nepo baby, which is the new buzzword, because her dad was Steven Tyler and she was raised by Todd Rundgren or whatever.
But you gotta admit, she's decent in the role she's been in, man.
You know what? I guess
she's gotten a lot of roles. You don't get that.
Oh, she was in the Lord of the Rings movies, wasn't she? Yeah, okay.
She was looking right in those.
Yeah. I was thinking like Armageddon.
I was just gonna say, bro, I don't care what no one says. She was great in Armageddon. I don't care what anyone says. I love that film. Well, I love Armageddon.
How do you feel about Deep Impact? Because that came
out. Deep Impact was good too.
Were you disappointed it wasn't a sequel to Boogie Nights? No, because you're a Boogie Nights fan.
I am. I wasn't disappointed.
Because with Dirk Diggler, it should be Deep
Diggler
Impact.
Should be Deep Impact, and that's the only way you go. Deep Impact was good. It wasn't as fun as Armageddon.
Yeah, Armageddon. I mean, that's early Michael Bay.
Yeah, that's what Armageddon was fun, and it had a crazy cast. You got a young Ben, you got Bruce, you got Liv, you got Steve Buscemi.
Yeah,
like you had a lot of like heavy hitters in there.
The guy who was the Kingpin in your Daredevil movie, and I can't remember his name, from the Green Mile.
Michael Clark, man.
Yes, Michael Duncan Clark. Yes,
like he was great.
Yeah,
he was. Rest in peace. He was a really good actor. Like
he was. He played.
Green Mile had me in tears.
There was a Spider-Man cartoon on MTV after Spider-Man came out. It was before Spider-Man. It was after Spider-Man. No, it was before Spider-Man 2. So it was between Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2. And it was computer animated. It was pretty good. And he played the Kingpin in that also. Because So it almost makes me think like Daredevil and that Spider-Man might have been in the same...
They're in the same...
peripherally.
At this point, cross whatever you want now, man.
Yeah.
Like,
the multiverse.
I was like, if you just verse jump, you can do whatever you want. Just multiverse it up, and we could talk about that whole thing.
But we'd have to.
That's a whole episode on its own.
Yeah,
you know what? That's a whole episode.
And you know what? We might have to do it after the Flash comes out.
Yes,
because the Flash, I'd like to compare to Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Everywhere, yeah.
Which is now like the benchmark as far as multiverse.
That's the multiverse benchmark for sure.
Because then you have No Way Home, and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness,
and Ant-Man,
Loki.
Oh, and Loki.
The first season of Loki, and then Ant-Man.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a lot of multiverse activity.
And in
a short amount of time. This is all within like 4 years.
And I'm excited for the Flash because I love the character of the Flash. But the idea of a multiverse started in Flash comics in the 60s.
So this is where it should have been.
Yeah, and it's been in the TV show for, almost 10 years now. Like him, Barry, always screws up the timeline because he's always like running and screwing something up or going to like a different Earth or whatever. So that's always been almost like a trope of the character.
Yep.
So I want to see how they handle it and then compare it to these other iterations of how they've done it over the past couple of years.
Dude, because one thing I probably should do, because when does Flash come out?
June 16th.
That's soon. One thing I should probably do is watch all the Flash TV show. Because I haven't seen all of it. I need to watch it.
It's all on Netflix.
Yeah, I know it's all on Netflix. So I'm like, I should probably just go ahead and bang that out. Because I am excited to see what they do with the Flash, man. And like, it looks like it's going to be good. I don't know. I think it's going to be fun.
Believe it or not, maybe just the first 3 seasons. Because I've seen them all. Okay. And they're in the 9th season now. It's like the last one. And there's some that, are better than others. But they're still good because you're like, the Flash is still on.
Yeah.
So how could it really be bad?
Can't be bad if you're seeing the Flash.
And over COVID, I admit some of the quality dipped, but I think it was more what COVID did to the industry overall.
And to everyone's
so they couldn't do what they wanted to do. But the first 3 seasons, I will say, like, establish a lot of who the Flash is and has been over the past few decades, because they mine a lot of great stories from great writers like Mark Waid or Jeff Johns, who over the past 30 years really made the character who he is. And Jeff Johns wrote Flashpoint.
Oh wow!
So
Okay.
he took like what Mark Waid did throughout the 90s and in the early 2000s, like reinvented in a way like Wally West, because it was Wally West at the time, not Barry Allen.
Yeah.
And then he brought Barry Allen back. So the show incorporates a lot of what they did with Wally West in the comics, and like including the Speed Force. The Speed Force didn't really exist until Mark Waid invented it. So maybe the first 3 seasons, if anything, because there's a lot to get into.
All right,
with
first
that,
3.
Because the first 3, the villains are more important to who the Flash is, especially the first season.
So they shape his character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if you only watch the first season may be the most important one, because it has more to do with his backstory and who he is and why he is who he is, why he's a police scientist, and why he runs fast. You know,
kind of like how Superman the movie probably be the most important one.
Yeah, no matter what.
It doesn't have much going on as far as what the future of him is.
Yeah,
but Superman the movie sets you up for who you're going to be dealing with and why, the motivations essentially. So,
yes, yeah. So if anything, just the first season, because then at least that's like a Cliff's Notes version of who Barry Allen is.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And see, you got your Superman shirt on.
I do.
I gotta say, man, you definitely gave me a new perspective on Superman, because I never was big on him. But Superman the movie and Superman 2 were very good. Probably, Superman the movie should probably be on best films all time list. It probably should.
And I think you watched the Donner cut of Superman 2, which is I think the better version.
Well, that's what everyone says. Cause,
yeah.
I asked this kid who works for me. He's like, he's a big comic guy, and he was like, "Dude, you gotta watch the Donner cut." He's like, "There's no other version." You know, that's what he said. He's like, "There's no other version." So, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. But Man of Steel did feel like the Donner cut. Recut up and modernized.
Yeah, it's like the first hour of Superman the movie and the Donner cut.
And the Donner cut.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Yeah.
You had the origin there, and, with, who played his dad? Kevin Costner?
Yeah, Kevin Costner.
With Kevin Costner and him, gotta hold it in. You gotta take your beatings from these assholes. Even freaking destroy them in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then you got the whole main conflict feels like the Donner cut. So it definitely was a combination of the two. And I really did like Henry Cavill as Superman. I really liked him a lot.
He was a good Superman.
He is.
I admit. And the weird thing is, people didn't really like him until the whole Snyder Cut thing. Because people trashed Man of Steel and Batman v Superman when they came out. But even Batman v Superman is still like the continuation of that, like the modern world trying to deal with this being that could, in theory, I think, destroy us. Instead of being like, oh, he's okay. Mm-hmm. He loves us. It's not the Christopher Reeve version because it's not the same world that he grew up in.
Yeah, it's a very different world.
They distrust him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they're spying on him. Like at the end of Man of Steel with the satellite and stuff. And it's like, how... Like, he knows who he is, but they don't. And that's why I believe it was called Man of Steel and not like Superman, whatever, because he's not Superman yet. He had to kill Zod to realize that he doesn't want to kill.
Michael Shannon. What a villain.
Yeah.
He's always a villain too, man.
He makes a great villain.
He does. He just has a villainous face.
Even in Knives Out.
Knives Out. He's with his little cane.
Yeah.
He looks villainous with his little cane.
Yeah.
Michael Shannon's a good actor, though. I do like him. I just watched something else he was in. He was really good, and I can't remember what it was.
Was it Midnight Special?
No.
Because I think he was in that movie.
No, it wasn't. I can't remember what it was. It'll pop in my head, and I'll find it. But yeah, Superman is definitely, he's on my radar. But what's the future of Superman like now, though?
Like comic book wise, or just, or
film.
you mean the movies?
Film.
James Gunn is writing and I think going to direct Superman Legacy.
Who's playing him?
They haven't said yet. Because look, he's doing the PR work for Guardians 3 now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like his last thing for Marvel, and then it's back to like spearheading DC. And look, he did a great job with Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad. So
Suicide Squad is fire, man.
yeah,
Went into that low expectations, came out very, very, very satisfied.
John Cena was incredible.
I was just gonna say, John Cena really blew me away.
And if you haven't seen Peacemaker,
I have to watch Peacemaker.
because look, it's John Cena's story, and James Gunn, I think he directed 5 out of the 8 episodes and wrote all of them.
Okay.
So
he's
it's like
involved.
it's his baby as much as like the Guardian stuff.
He's involved. I mean,
Yeah.
he's kind of the most reliable guy we got in hero cinema right now.
I think so, yeah.
He's kind of the go-to. I mean, Snyder still has to be taken in consideration.
And the thing about Zack Snyder is he'll translate your stories well and do it in an artistic way. I know people complain about those slow-mo shots, but that's a splash page from a comic book.
Yes.
You know?
I was like, that's comic book-esque.
Yeah.
Like,
And you see it in like Captain America Civil War a couple times, because I think Marvel knew that they had to show at least some images that mirrored like the comic book it was based on in some way. And that's what Zack Snyder does as a director. He tries to honor the fans, whether critics like it or not. You know, I mean, he's really thinking about the source material and how to translate it in a way that fans will enjoy. It's just weird that like people don't appreciate it at the time. It's always later.
I was just gonna say, I was like,
Yeah.
bro, but like, if people go back and they're like, you know what, he did his thing with this, especially The Watchmen, like,
Yeah.
he trashed it. I'm like, The Watchmen is easily one of the best hero films ever. It's great,
I saw that in the theater at the midnight show.
dude. Oh, you didn't get home till
Which,
4
yeah.
o'clock in the morning.
But if you think about how clever this was, right? Because in Watchmen, they're talking about the doomsday clock. So there's a lot of thing about clocks. Dr. Manhattan's dad was a watchmaker.
Mhm.
You know, so the midnight show on March 6, 2009. So you have 12, 3, 6, and 9 all around the clock.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool.
Crazy symmetry.
Would have never thought about that. Yeah.
But there's only one show that was like that.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah, that's
But
it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like I said.
Or I guess maybe a noon show also that day.
Yeah, noon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there could have been 2 shows.
It could have been 2. But
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
But I mean, what he did with The Watchmen was next level. Fleshed out all the characters well.
Yeah.
You got to know them all. You got to see the good and the bad of them all.
Yeah.
And he brought them all together to where everything made sense. And the action was dope, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
the action was dope. And like, his portrayal of the comedian was just brilliant.
Comedian is actually based on Peacemaker.
Really?
Yeah, because DC wouldn't let Alan Moore, when he wrote the story, use the old Charlton characters that he wanted to use, so he had to make like analogs for them.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so the comedian is actually
Wow.
basically Peacemaker.
I did love the comedian.
Yeah.
And like, even though he does some messed up stuff, it's almost like, in the grand scheme of things, was it that bad for what came later? Of course, in the time, it all seems bad. But then, you know, even when you look at it, you're like, well, he could have been worse.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, he was bad.
Yeah, he was.
bad.
He was.
I can't condone a big number of his actions. Okay,
Yes.
I can't. But it's just like Rorschach. I can't say I agree with everything that comes out of his mouth, but I think his overall intent is in the right place.
Yes.
So
And when you watch the Watchmen show, you'll see how his intent could be twisted.
I gotta watch that.
Yeah, because it's really incredible, even though it's not like sanctioned by Alan Moore, because nothing ever would be. What they were able to do in order to honor the source material is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta see. All right, bro.
Oh yeah, I guess it's been a while.
140.
Sorry. Oh my
All right,
goodness.
wrap them up, guys.
Yeah. Wow.
Appreciate whoever's listening. Went on a little long, but this is what we were talking about. This is how it goes. This is a regular conversation between us two all the time, whether a microphone's on or not. So this is just how we do. We break stuff down. We get into it and, bounce stuff around. You learn a lot of new stuff, guys. So you'll learn a ton of stuff if you just watch the cutting room floor.
And Dom also has a YouTube channel. Don't forget the popcorn where he reviews films.
Yeah, I do reviews, smaller scale videos, but I do a lot of rankings and go over lists and things like that. Talk about, directors in certain genres and break it all down. So yeah, you can check that out too, if you guys are interested. But.
And Don't Forget the Popcorn, he has streaming recommendations.
Oh yeah.
So he suggested we do that as well.
Yeah.
So what is your streaming recommendation?
Well, let's see. My streaming recommendation right now. It's actually tough because I could go with a few. I always like to challenge my listeners though. And I'm going to do that here. No, I'm not. I'll challenge you later.
Okay.
I was going to challenge him with something. No, I'm not going to do that right now. My streaming recommendation, though. Let me think. Give them yours.
Okay.
Because I got...
I might just do what might seem like a cop-out right now. But I would suggest Zack Snyder's Justice League because it will set up.
Yeah,
at least
not a cop out. That's a good one.
Even if it's not in continuity to the new Flash film, it at least sets up the most we've seen of that version of the Flash on screen so far, and who he is, and at least how he may have started. So, and it's on HBO Max. So I would say Zack Snyder's Justice League as some background to this version of the Flash and what he's been through.
Nice. All right. I got a weird one. It's actually on YouTube for free currently. So watch this quick, because you never know when something could get taken down. 1968, Jane Fonda film. I had to do it to him. They shoot horses, don't they? And it's a film about the Depression and kind of the lengths certain people were willing to go just to survive. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's a movie, the entire movie, people dance in it for the whole film. And it's one of the best watches.
Really?
Yep. It's a great film.
Wow. Who else is in it?
Oh, God.
And anyone, because at the time, because that's like post Barbarella Jane Fonda. So she was like riding high.
She was riding high when this came out. She got the Oscar nom for it.
Wow.
Because, she's just that freaking good. Oh, it's Michael Sarrazin, Gig Young, Susanna York. Oh, Bruce Dern is in this movie. Yeah, Bruce Dern's in it.
Susanna York, she's in Superman. Mm-hmm. She's one of the Kryptonians.
Yep, she's the Kryptonian. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Wow.
It's good, though. It's a great film. I think it's a film everyone should watch and see at least once because I think it gives you a good example of what it was like to be around in those times. Kind of like The Grapes of Wrath. But this movie, I think, is more watchable and more digestible than Grapes of Wrath.
Wasn't her dad in The Grapes of Wrath?
Yes, he is.
Oh, wow.
Young Henry.
Yes. Wow.
Henry was great, man.
Yeah,
Henry was great. He was... I love Henry.
Yeah.
The whole family tree was great. I liked Peter. I liked Henry. I liked Jane. I love Jane. She's the best. And she still has movies coming out this year.
Yeah. Look, 85?
85.
She's still
killing it.
Yeah.
Her and Lily T, they're gonna be around till they aren't.
I wonder why they never did a sequel to 9 to 5.
Because Dolly Parton got ugly.
I'm sorry. Wow.
That was me.
Wow.
She was so gorgeous when she was younger, and then I don't know what happened. The work, the plastic surgery, it just didn't work, man. And she looked so like in 9 to 5, she looked stunning. That's a funny one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
But guys, hope you enjoy the cutting room floor. Let us know if you want to hear about something, whatever it is, but this was just the pilot. The next episode will be far more structured. We'll stay on a topic, but we just wanted to give you guys a taste of what it can be like when things go off the rails, but in the most beautiful, poetic way possible, because we covered a lot of ground and we both learned a lot just in this conversation. So, anything you want to add?
No, just thank you, and I thank
thank you
any listeners for their time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess depending on where this ends up, leave comments.
Yep.
I guess
we'll be all over.
Yeah,
we'll be all over eventually. But guys, it's gonna be slow at first.
All right, until next time.
Till next time, leave it on the cutting room floor.